Most people don't realize that being broke is not an event, it's a habit. It's the quiet patterns repeated day after day that shape your financial destiny. Money doesn't disappear randomly, it follows the direction of your decisions. And if the decisions are rooted in impulse, insecurity, or indiscipline, the outcome will always be lack. Today I want to expose the 5 money habits that silently keep people broke. Not because they lack opportunities, but because they lack awareness, intention, and financial maturity. The first habit keeping you broke is spending for validation instead of vision. Too many people try to buy the appearance of success before they build the foundation of success. They want the outfit, the car, the gadgets, the lifestyle, without yet building the income, the skill set, or the discipline that supports it. When you spend money trying to impress people, you become a slave to opinions that don't pay your bills. You don't buy assets, you buy applause. And applause has no return on investment. The moment you begin spending for vision on things that build you, grow you, and position you stop being broke and start becoming valuable. The second habit making you broke is treating wants like needs. Wants scream louder, but needs sustain you. People who remain broke blur the line between the necessary and the unnecessary. They convince themselves they deserve luxuries while ignoring their financial realities. They justify buying things that satisfy the moment instead of securing the future. Wealthy people delay gratification. Broke mindsets demand gratification. The day you learn to control your desires is the day money starts staying with you instead of sprinting away from you. The third habit that keeps you stuck financially is ignoring the power of small daily financial decisions. Most people think financial problems come from one big mistake. They don't. They come from tiny, repeated leaks, daily indulgences, unnecessary subscriptions, impulse purchases, and careless spending. Small numbers become big problems when repeated consistently. But here's the good news. Small, wise decisions also become wealth when repeated consistently. The same way small bad habits destroy you, small disciplined habits build you. It's not what you do occasionally, it's what you do daily that shapes your finances. The fourth habit keeping you broke is making money decisions emotionally instead of strategically. When your wallet moves based on your mood, you will always lose. Emotional spending is the fastest way to sabotage your progress. Stress spending, boredom spending, celebration spending, these patterns keep you in cycles you can't escape. Wealthy mindsets don't buy based on how they feel, they buy based on principles, priorities, and long-term impact. When you remove emotion from money and replace it with strategy, you gain control over your financial direction. The fifth habit making you broke is failing to multiply your income streams. Too many people depend on one income source and wonder why they're stressed. One income is too close to none. People stay broke because they only work for money. They never build systems where money works for them. They rely on a paycheck instead of building skills, creating value, and investing in opportunities that produce revenue without their constant labor. Wealth is not built on effort alone, it is built on leverage. When you learn to multiply your income streams, you escape survival mode and enter growth mode. The most dangerous habit underneath all these habits is procrastinating on financial discipline. I'll save later. I'll invest later. I'll fix my spending later. Later is the enemy of wealth. People stay broke because they allow convenience to outrank responsibility. They know what to do, but they delay doing it, and delay is the silent thief of destiny. If you want to stop being broke, change the habits that are keeping you broke. Wealth doesn't start with money. Wealth starts with mindset, discipline, and responsibility. When you shift your priorities, your decisions change. When your decisions change, your habits change. And when your habits change, your results transform. Break the habits that break you and build the habits that build your future. Money is not just earned, it is managed, multiplied, and mastered. And the moment you adopt the habits aligned with abundance, you'll stop chasing money and start attracting it. Spending for validation instead of vision is one of the most subtle and dangerous habits keeping people broke, because it feels good in the moment while silently destroying your long-term potential. When you spend for validation, you're not purchasing value, you're purchasing approval. You're trying to fill an internal gap with external things. You're trying to show people you're doing well instead of actually doing well. And the problem with validation is that it expires quickly. The excitement fades, the applause stops, the novelty wears off, and all you're left with is a bill, a payment plan, or a balance that follows you long after the feeling is gone. This habit keeps people broke because it redirects money away from things that would build them into things that only decorate them. You buy clothes to look successful instead of courses to become successful. You buy devices to look modern instead of tools that make you more productive. You spend money upgrading your image while neglecting your income. You invest in perception instead of preparation. And the painful truth is this: people don't value you more because you look like you're winning. They value you more when you actually are winning. Validation-driven spending is rooted in insecurity. It's the belief that you need to prove yourself to people who are not paying your bills, not helping your growth, and not contributing to your future. When your self-worth depends on what others think, you become financially irresponsible trying to maintain an image. You chase trends instead of pursuing transformation. You spend money on things that depreciate instead of things that appreciate. You end up living a lifestyle that your income cannot sustain. And when your lifestyle grows faster than your discipline, you will always stay broke. Vision-driven spending is the complete opposite. It's when your purchases are tied to your purpose. It's when you spend money on things that increase your skills, elevate your mindset, expand your opportunities, and position you for greater earning power. Vision-driven spending might not impress anyone immediately, but it changes everything eventually. Skills produce money, knowledge creates opportunities, growth expands capacity, discipline builds wealth. When you invest in things that align with your future, you don't need validation. Your results become the proof. The moment you shift from validation to vision, your financial life begins to change. You stop buying to look rich and start investing to become rich. You stop searching for approval and start building capability. You stop trying to win the crowd and start trying to win your future. And when your money flows toward purpose instead of insecurity, you won't just stop being broke, you'll start becoming unstoppable. Treating wants like needs is one of the biggest financial traps people fall into because it blurs the line between desire and necessity. When you confuse the two, your money starts flowing in the wrong direction, toward things that entertain you instead of things that sustain you. The dangerous part is that it doesn't feel irresponsible in the moment. It feels justified. You convince yourself that you deserve it, that it's not that expensive, or that everyone else has it. Before you know it, luxuries become normal, extras become expected, and your spending grows faster than your income. This habit keeps people broke because it creates a lifestyle built on emotional impulses instead of actual priorities. Wants are temporary satisfactions. Needs are long-term foundations. But when you treat wants like needs, you elevate your desires to a level they were never meant to occupy. You end up making decisions that feel good today, but hurt you tomorrow. You buy for comfort instead of financial stability. You give in to cravings instead of commitments. You sacrifice your future peace for present pleasure. The truth is, wealth is built on the ability to delay gratification. Every financially strong person has mastered one thing. They don't let wants dictate their decisions. They understand that you don't have to cut off every desire. You simply must place desires in their correct order. Needs come first. Growth comes next. Wants come last. When you reverse that order, you stay stuck no matter how much money you make. Treating wants like needs also creates a cycle of entitlement. You start believing you must have things you can't currently afford. You normalize spending that isn't aligned with your current reality. You expect upgrades without upgrading your discipline, and you justify choices that sabotage your financial future. This is why so many people increase their income but never increase their net worth. Their wants inflate to match their paychecks, leaving nothing behind to build wealth. The moment you begin separating wants from needs with brutal honesty, your financial life starts changing immediately. You gain clarity, you gain control, you gain momentum. You realize that many of the things you thought you had to have were simply distractions stealing your future. And once you discipline your desires, you redirect money toward things that truly matter: saving, investing, building, learning, and creating stability. When you stop treating wants like needs, your money stops disappearing into impulse purchases and starts flowing into the life you want to build. You become intentional instead of emotional, strategic instead of reactive, focused instead of scattered. And once you master that distinction, you don't just protect your money, you multiply it. Ignoring the power of small daily financial decisions is one of the most common reasons people stay broke, because they underestimate how tiny habits compound over time. Most people think their financial struggles come from one major disaster, one bad investment, one job loss, one emergency. But the truth is far more subtle. Money leaks through small cracks long before it bursts through big holes. It's the daily choices, the little indulgences, the unnoticed expenses that quietly drain your financial potential. A cup of convenience here, a subscription you don't use there, an impulse purchase because it's only a few dollars. These become patterns, and patterns become financial identity. People tell themselves this won't make a difference, but everything makes a difference when repeated consistently. The same way one drop of water means nothing, but thousands of drops fill a bucket. Your tiny spending habits fill the story of your financial life. You don't go broke all at once. You go broke slowly, silently, and subconsciously. Small decisions matter because they reflect the level of discipline you carry. If you can't control the little things, you will never master the big things. If you can't manage $10 wisely, you won't magically become wiser with $10,000. Money doesn't change you, it magnifies you. And if your daily habits are sloppy, inconsistent, or careless, more income will only expose that lack of control on a larger scale. But here's the flip side. Small good decisions also compound. Every dollar saved, every unnecessary expense eliminated, every intentional choice made daily becomes the foundation of financial freedom. Small wins add up, small habits stack, small disciplined actions start shaping your mindset into one that respects money and understands the long game. Wealth isn't built from one big decision. It's built from thousands of small ones executed with consistency. Ignoring small daily decisions keeps you stuck because it keeps you reactive instead of proactive. You're always catching up, always short, always wondering where the money went. But when you start paying attention, really paying attention, you take back control. You see patterns, you correct behaviors, you create margin. And that margin becomes stability. That stability becomes confidence. That confidence becomes opportunity. The moment you stop dismissing small decisions and start treating them as the seeds of your financial future, everything begins to shift. You realize that your daily habits are either building your wealth or slowly destroying it. And once you start choosing wisely, even in the smallest ways, you step into a level of discipline that opens the door to abundance. Making money emotionally instead of strategically is one of the most destructive habits because it puts your financial future in the hands of your feelings, feelings that change by the hour. When emotions drive your decisions, money becomes a response to your mood rather than a reflection of your plan. You buy when you're stressed, you spend when you're bored, you upgrade when you're insecure, and you justify every choice based on how you felt in that moment. And the problem with emotional decisions is that they almost never align with long-term success. Emotions live in the present. Strategy lives in the future. And when you choose present comfort over future strength, you end up broke, frustrated, and stuck in the same cycle. Emotional spending convinces you that your mood deserves a reward. You had a hard day, buy something. You're exhausted, order something. You're celebrating, overspend. You're discouraged, treat yourself. This pattern feels harmless, even therapeutic, but it becomes a financial trap. You start using money as a coping mechanism instead of a tool. You soothe yourself with purchases that give you temporary relief but long-term regret. You become driven by impulses, not intentions. And every time you let an emotion take the wheel, you steer yourself further from stability and closer to stress. Strategy, on the other hand, is the discipline of making decisions based on logic, clarity, and long-term benefit. It separates wants from priorities. It removes the chaos from money. It forces you to ask the questions emotions never consider. Does this serve my goals? Does this bring me closer to financial peace? Does this align with the future I'm building? Strategic decision-making doesn't allow momentary feelings to dictate permanent consequences. It demands accountability from your choices. When you operate emotionally, your financial life becomes unpredictable. You have good months and terrible months. You save inconsistently. You spend impulsively. You regret frequently. You live in reaction mode instead of creation mode. But when you operate strategically, you create structure. You control your spending. You plan your investments. You prepare for emergencies. You build habits that don't depend on motivation, but on discipline. Strategy turns chaos into clarity. The real danger of emotional money decisions is that they remove your power. They make your finances dependent on your internal storms. They tie your money to your moods instead of your mission. But when you switch to strategic thinking, you take your power back. You stop being controlled by how you feel and start being guided by where you're going. You become intentional. You become consistent. You become wise. And wisdom multiplies money faster than emotion ever could. When you stop letting feelings make your financial decisions, you stop sabotaging your future for the sake of a moment. You begin operating like someone who values their destiny more than their impulses. And that shift away from emotion and towards strategy is what separates those who stay broke from those who build wealth that lasts. Failing to multiply income streams is one of the biggest reasons people stay broke, because it keeps them trapped in a survival cycle built on a single fragile source of money. Depending on one income is like standing on one leg. Any pressure, any setback, any unexpected event can knock you down instantly. Yet most people build their entire financial life on something that can disappear with a single phone call, a company decision, a market shift, or a health issue. When all your money comes from one place, you live with constant financial tension because you know deep down that your stability is always at risk. People stay broke not because they lack potential, but because they rely on a system designed to keep them limited. One job, one paycheck, one source. That's too close to zero. That's not security, that's exposure. The world is unpredictable. Jobs change, industries shift, economies fluctuate. When you have multiple income streams, you're not just making more money, you're protecting your future against the uncertainties of life. You're building financial armor. The greatest trap is believing that working harder at one stream will solve everything. It won't. You cannot outwork a system that was never meant to make you wealthy. A job pays you enough to live, but rarely enough to build wealth. Real wealth comes from leverage, money that comes in without your constant labor, income that grows even when you're not present, systems that produce money while you're sleeping, learning, traveling, or recovering. When you depend only on your effort, your income has a ceiling. When you create multiple streams, your potential becomes limitless. The truth is, multiplying income streams doesn't require perfection. It requires intention. Start with your skills, your knowledge, your experiences, your creativity. There are ways to monetize what you already know and what you already do. You don't need to build 3 streams overnight. You just need to start building one new one. A small side business, a digital product, a consulting skill, a freelance service, a rental income, an investment that grows over time. One new stream can change everything. One new stream can break the cycle. One new stream can give you breathing room. And once you build one, you realize you can build more. Failing to multiply your income keeps you stuck because it forces you to trade time for money forever. It keeps you in a loop where you work just to survive, not to grow. But the moment you shift from being a worker to being a builder, everything changes. You stop thinking like an employee and start thinking like someone designing their financial future. You stop relying on luck and start relying on structure. You stop hoping for raises and start creating revenue. When you commit to creating multiple income streams, you step into a level of financial power most people never experience. You create security, you create freedom, you create options, and options are the foundation of wealth. You don't become wealthy by working harder. You become wealthy by multiplying what works. And the day you stop depending on one income is the day you stop living in fear and start living in abundance. Procrastinating on financial discipline is one of the most silent yet destructive habits because it convinces you that you have more time than you actually do. It whispers, you'll start next month, you'll save when you earn more, you'll invest when things calm down, and you'll fix your spending later. But later is the greatest enemy of wealth. Later is where dreams die. Later is where opportunities expire. Later is where people stay stuck. Every time you delay discipline, you strengthen the habits that are keeping you broke and weaken the habits that could set you free. Procrastination gives you the illusion of intention without the reality of action. You feel productive because you're thinking about change, planning for change, or talking about change, but you're not making change. And nothing improves until behavior improves. People say they want financial peace, but they keep postponing the very actions that create it. They want savings, but they don't start saving. They want investments, but they don't start investing. They want control, but they avoid confronting where their money is actually going. Procrastination keeps you broke because it protects your comfort instead of your future. Financial discipline is not difficult. It's uncomfortable. It requires honesty, structure, restraint, and consistency. It forces you to confront the habits you'd rather ignore, the spending you'd rather justify, and the choices you'd rather excuse. That's why people delay it. Not because they don't know what to do, but because they don't want to face the discomfort of doing it. But wealth lives on the other side of that discomfort. Prosperity begins where excuses end. Freedom starts where discipline begins. The dangerous part about procrastinating is that time doesn't pause for your hesitation. While you delay your discipline, expenses rise, opportunities pass, debt grows, inflation increases, responsibilities expand, and life keeps moving. The cost of waiting is always higher than the cost of starting. You don't feel it immediately, but you feel it eventually. In stress, in pressure, in scarcity. But the moment you choose discipline, everything changes. Discipline creates momentum. Momentum builds confidence. Confidence shapes identity. And identity sustains success. You don't have to be perfect, you just have to begin. Start saving something even if it's small. Start investing something even if it's little. Start tracking your spending even if your finances feel messy. Start building habits today that your future self will thank you for. When you stop procrastinating and start acting, you reclaim control. You stop being a passive participant in your financial life and start becoming the architect of it. You stop living in reaction and start living with intention. And when discipline becomes your habit, wealth becomes your outcome. The truth is, nobody stays broke because of one big mistake. They stay broke because of the small habits they repeat without thinking. Spending for validation, treating wants like needs, ignoring daily decisions, reacting emotionally, relying on a single income, and delaying discipline are not just financial issues, they're mindset issues. They reveal how you think, how you prioritize, and how you see your future. But the good news is this: habits can be replaced. Mindsets can be upgraded. Financial direction can be changed at any moment you decide to take responsibility for it. You don't need more luck. You don't need a miracle, and you don't need someone else to save you. You just need to shift the way you move with money. When you start spending with vision, controlling your desires, honoring the small decisions, thinking strategically, building multiple income streams, and practicing discipline today, not later, you begin rewriting your financial story. You start moving from survival to stability, from stability to growth, and from growth to abundance. Your financial future isn't determined by your past. It's determined by the habits you practice next. You have the power to build wealth, to create security, and to design a life where money works for you instead of controlling you. Change the habits that keep you broke, and you'll unlock the freedom, confidence, and opportunities you were meant to live in. The moment you decide to take control is the moment your journey toward wealth truly begins.